Welcome, everyone. I'm going to give everybody just a little minute to find the room before we get started. All right. Okay, I think we might be mostly there. Let me get my screen shared and you can all hear me. Can I get a thumbs up? We can hear me? Great. Okay. Here we go. This is what I want to share. Okay. Can we see my screen? Yeah? Great. Let me get that. Okay. Um, all right. So we're going to begin. My name is Lynne Snyder. I am a new member of this committee, and it's super exciting to be part of it. Um, Today, I'm super excited to talk to you about the practice blueprint. I'm a musician, a performer, and an educator in the Los Angeles area. I've been the clarinet coach at Caltech for about 15 years. And so I am very excited to talk about how we can fall in love with practicing and level up. So, and I don't want you to worry about trying to take mad notes. I have like a summary sheet that I'm going to eventually put in the chat at the end for you or make available somehow. Okay, so let's begin. So practicing, right? The problem that we're talking about today is one that I call never, sometimes, always. That's the name of the problem. And so it goes something like this. I never want to practice. Sometimes I do anyway. And I'm always glad I did, right? So that may be a familiar feeling to you. And that's because we know that practicing with the right strategies works. Like we get better when we practice. But the main issue, right, of course, is our love-hate relationship that we may have with practicing. So, right, sometimes it feels boring, sometimes it feels like a chore, sometimes we get frustrated because our progress is just slow. We can feel isolated. If you're a perfectionist, you're maybe feeling judgy all the time about yourself. And we all have demands on our time, right? Other things that we need to attend to in life. And so sometimes we wonder if it's even paying off at all. And so at the end of the day, maybe we come to the conclusion that we would just rather not practice. So today, the blueprint, we're going to create this blueprint. And the idea is we're going to figure out how to do practicing so that it helps you level up, like so that it works, but also keeps you in love with it. And all of that is part of this theme of today's online event, which is navigating to success on your very own personal clarinet journey, whatever that is for you. So typically practicing, right? Here's some words that come to mind when I think about practicing, right? Maybe we're doing long tones, maybe we're doing scales, maybe we're playing music for a band or for orchestra or for a trio or a group that I'm in. Maybe you're doing etudes. Maybe you're actually just playing music that you like, which is great. Maybe if you're taking lessons, you're doing music for that. Or maybe you're just like, I'm only going to use my practice time for only the things that are really hard for me, and that's all you ever do when you practice. And I want you to notice about this list that these categories of what we're practicing quite often are defined by the ensemble type. Like, here's my private lesson music, here's my band music, here's my other music, right? So we're kind of organizing our music this way. I'm going to suggest that we think about organizing our music a different way. We're going to have a very specific mindset and goals when we come into practicing. But we're going to organize maybe by level of effort. And here are the levels of effort that I'm going to talk about today. Easy level, flow level, challenge level, fun level. And so when we approach all of this, we want to have a specific mindset. So when you hear the word mindset, a lot of times you're thinking, oh, obviously I'm going to come in with a positive mindset. And that's not actually what I'm talking about today. Today, I'm talking about this concept of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And this is something, okay, hold on. Somebody raised a hand. Just a minute. Um, I don't know how to call on people, but yes,
Lynn, sorry to interrupt you, but I suspect that you have some slides that you're wanting us to see, and I don't think they're showing up for us.
they're not showing. Okay, let me stop screen share one moment. Okay, thank you for saying that. Let me attempt the share again. So, share. Thank you for that. Are you seeing a picture of a brain now?
Yes,
Yes?
indeed.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're thinking, thank you for that. So we're thinking about this idea of a positive mindset, right? And so I'm actually wanting us to talk about something called a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And this is a term from psychology that maybe you've come across. In a fixed mindset, here's what's happening. We feel that our abilities are kind of unchangeable, and that's exemplified by this quote of like talent. You either have it or you don't. Um, and this a fixed mindset will tell you that your effort, because you either have talent or you don't, is not going to result in improvement. Or if you have a great success, you kind of attribute it to those innate abilities, not your effort. And so when we do have a failure, we attribute that to like a cap on our talent, like we just can't get better than that, right? That's a fixed mindset. So I want to talk to you about instead a growth mindset. And so a growth mindset is kind of the opposite of that. With a growth mindset, we recognize that our talents can grow and they can be developed. We recognize that we can control the amount of effort we're put forward, and that the more effort is, we can get better with effort, right? We recognize that. When other people are doing really well, we're going to attribute their success to their effort and not solely to their talent with a growth mindset. And then also, we view ourselves as always in the process of learning. So this concept of using the word yet, like I'm not there yet. I can't do this song yet, right? So that's a growth mindset. When we pair that with goal setting, that's going to really set the stage for us. So if you've learned anything about goal setting in other arenas of your life, you know kind of the standard information, which is that goals should be clear, attainable, measurable, relevant. And so, yes, 100%, all of those things. But I'm going to be talking about briefly performance goals and mastery goals. These are other terms from the world of psychology that really help us as musicians. And so these are really about our approach to goal setting, not the actual goals we set ourselves. So here's some examples. A performance goal are going to be, these are goals that you're going to be setting in comparison to other people. So a comparison goal is like, I want to play better than this other person. Like I want to be first chair so that I'm better than everybody else. That's a performance goal. Another one is kind of the inverse. Avoid sounding incompetent compared to other people. So you're kind of thinking, well, I don't have to be great at this piece as long as I sound better than this person next to me, right? Those are performance goals. They're not super helpful for our mental health and for how we feel about practicing. So we want to set mastery goals, which are goals we set compared to ourselves. We're using ourself as the yardstick. So I want to play better than I did earlier. Um, I want to get good at playing this piece of music. So a mastery goal can also be about the task. Like I want to get good at this specific clarinet task. So we like those goals. Those are good for practicing mastery goals. So in our blueprint, we're going to have these kind of four essential parts of our practice session. And again, they're based on like our effort level. This is a new way to think about organizing our music. So we're going to have a foundation. We're going to have a moment for flow and a moment for really hard work and a moment for fun. Each of these areas is going to have a purpose for us. Each of them is going to help you level up. And the idea is that we're going to like spending time in each of these places. So the very first level, that's our foundation level. The challenge level here should be easy. I want to stress that. Yes, this is all about warm up. So our purpose of warm up is not to stretch ourselves in any way. It's just to awaken our abilities for the day, prevent injury, right? We're taking it really easy on ourselves. You're just getting primed to start playing your best, right? And how does it help us level up? Well, the idea is if you keep doing a little warm up, like a little foundational stuff every time you get your clarinet out, over time, your base level of playing is going to improve, right? And so this point is illustrated by Joshua Gardner, who is at Arizona State University, and he was talking about this in an earlier event this year, and he was like, so you use a fork every day, right? You do that every time, and now, like, when was the last time you missed your mouth? And I was like, wow, that really makes sense. So if let's say your scale, like F sharp major scale, all these sharps, if that's your fork and you keep doing that every day, eventually you're not going to miss your F sharp major, right? So this idea that we're going to build over time our base level. But here's the thing about falling in love with it. We need to do warm-ups that we love, right? We need to do stuff we're looking forward to opening our case to do, right? So when people talk about clarinet warm-ups, a lot of times we're talking about embouchure, fingers, like warm all these things up, warm up your brain, warm up your air, warm up your tongue. But what if we don't really like doing those things, right? That's a big obstacle to getting the clarinet out for the day. So I'd like us to think about some workarounds. So when people have given me long tone exercises in the past, they look something like this, right? Long notes that we're holding out for a long time. If you don't like this, then this is not the warm up for you. So I'm going to suggest that we do something maybe more fun, maybe more interesting, and that is find music from the literature in the world of clarinet that you like and use that instead. So here we're going to find music we love, and here is the opening of the Copland Clarinet Concerto. If you do this slow, this is a fabulous long tone and embouchure warm up, right? And I've provided this for us in our documents, in our resources, so you'll have access to this. But this is a great substitute for a long tone warm up if you'd rather do this instead. And the bonus is you can play along with like recordings, right? You can play along with people on YouTube if you want, which is super fun. Okay, so scale patterns, same thing. Maybe this does not appeal to you to run up and down your scales like this. But you know what else is really scaly is the Weber concertino. So check out that. That's just F major all over the place. And we can do that in a few different keys, which I'll provide for you, and get a great scale warm up that way. Similarly, here's like a standard tonguing warm up that you might do sometime. But if you don't want to just sit there and play open G, tongued around a bunch, maybe we could play William Tell, right? And you know, when you play with things on YouTube, you can turn the speed up or down so you can adjust so that you can play with it. So I'm going to suggest that for warm ups, we pick music that we love and we find it from the literature. There's a lot of resources for finding things, and I will provide you some of those resources as well. So that takes care of our foundation, our warm-up level. Our next level is going to be the flow zone. Okay, so flow is a term also from psychology. I'm sure even if you don't know this as a term, you have experienced it. It is this idea that you're working on something and it is exactly the right amount of hard for you. It is not too easy. It is not too hard. It is the Goldilocks amount of challenge. And that helps put us in the state of flow. And this is a great state. And you'll recognize it because you end up having like kind of an intense focus on what you're doing, yet it feels effortless because it's not too hard. You tend to lose track of time. This is when you've been practicing and you're like, wow, it's lunch already. How did time go? That's an indication that you've been in flow. You have a very extreme degree of sense of control over your brain and your body when you're in this state. It's very relaxing for you. It's intrinsically rewarding. You're getting a surge of good chemicals kind of bathing your brain. This is how we fall in love with practicing, is because we're spending time doing this. It feels great. It makes you want to come back for more. And you can do any phase. If you checked out Josh Goo's breakout session this morning, he talked about 3 parts of practicing. All of those parts of his practicing ideas work in the state of flow. Okay. Then we have the music that is a lot harder for us. This is our effortful challenge zone. So the advice that comes to mind is when I was taking lessons from David Howard, who was for many, many years the principal clarinetist of the LA Phil, I asked him, what should I be practicing more? And I fully 100% expected him to tell me, you should be practicing your long tones. You should be practicing your scales. And that is not what he said. He just said very simply, you should practice what you're not good at. And I just thought it was so beautiful, eloquent, like that. Of course, so I should be practicing what I'm not good at. But that's the idea behind this zone. So when you're doing this kind of music, you recognize you are working, right? So this is when you're doing things that are not a match for your current skill levels. And that's why the word yet is so important in our vocabulary. You're not there, not yet, right? So you will be aware of time, maybe like, oh, when can I stop this part, right? It can still be intrinsically rewarding, but this is also where our frustrations appear. And then therefore cortisol starts kind of getting dumped into our body because we're maybe hitting roadblocks and we just can't quite get where we need to get with it. So I want us to be aware of how much time we spend here because this is where burnout happens. We're working, and we're feeling like it's very, very difficult. Of course, this is going to be enhanced, this kind of music that we practice is going to be enhanced when we have a mastery goal. Like remember, I'm trying to master a task, not trying to get better than other people. That will help this level. And I want to make a special note that the fundamentals of clarinet playing can belong in this part of your practice, not at the beginning. Like, for example, for me, tonguing speed is something that I get frustrated with. Like, I wish I could tongue faster. So that's something that for me is effortful challenge. Working on getting faster at tonguing doesn't belong in my warm up. My warm up should be where I do easy tonguing, where I'm not challenging myself yet. So you can work on a fundamental part that kind of is in warm ups, usually like considered part of a normal warm up. You can work on those skills right here in the effortful part of your practice. And the idea is that eventually, if you're working with good strategies in your effort for level, it will move that music into your flow zone where you're able to just kind of, it's like the perfect amount of challenge. And after it's been in flow for a long time, it'll be your easy zone, and then you can use it for a warm up. So again, if you saw Josh Goo's talk earlier, you can do any part of your practice can be considered your effortful practice, right? Okay. So, and then last, of course, when we get out our clarinet, we have to have fun. We have to be doing some things just for fun. It can be anything you need it to be. The purpose here of your fun time is actually pure joy. Exploration, I've highlighted this for a reason. I'll tell you in a minute. Curiosity, satisfy your curiosity about something. Use some time to like listen to recordings if you like doing that. Play along with recordings. That I think is enormous fun. Experiment with your equipment if you like that. I love doing that. Go back to something earlier from your practice session just for fun. If you like sight reading, this is a great time to do it. And I have it highlighted in red because I want to tell you about that. And this is what I want to say. So the idea is that for our brains, when we experience novelty, something new, so exploring something new, sight reading, music we've never seen before, we get dopamine released. And so you will naturally begin to enjoy things that are new. So we have to, in our clarinet journeys, I really recommend that we constantly seek out new music, new experiences, new information all the time. And of course, that's why many of you are here today. So you're already getting that. Okay, so let's talk about the proportions of how do we mix all of that up together, right? This is a new way to think about practicing. So if the goal is to level up and love practicing, then we've always got to at least have foundation and flow, like if we're going to get out the clarinet, because that will help you avoid losing your skills over time. You can maintain your level with foundation and flow. If you want to improve quickly, then that effortful challenge zone is what we want to have, right? So that's prioritizing the leveling up. And if you spend more time in flow than in the really hard challenge, that's going to help you avoid burnout. So I want to give you a sample, like an example of what that looks like, for those of us that like numbers and check boxes and well organized things. So you could do something like this: 10% warm up, 10% fun, then challenge and flow, but flow is outweighing the challenge. And so if you had an hour to practice, you could break it down like that. If you had 30 minutes to practice, you could break it down like that. Right? So there's options if you're a person that likes to set timers and be very accountable to yourself that way. So leveling up, you're doing your foundation, you're spending time in challenge zone, and to love practicing, you're spending more time in flow and you're making sure you include your fun and your enrichment, right? So we're getting both the leveling up and the falling in love happening at the same time with our practicing. So these blueprints for practicing work because we have strategies. And Josh Goo talked about a bunch of great strategies earlier today, and I'm going to give you two more. So I like to talk about puppy dog mode and bulldog mode. So puppy dog mode, at its heart, this is idea that if you've ever trained a puppy before, you know that you have to train, you can't put them on a stay before they even know how to sit. Like things come in order, and you, as you're training them, you're trying to make it so that they can't fail. You're not setting them up to fail. You're doing tiny, tiny baby steps. So let's say, for example, for whatever reason, you had this piece, this monster of a piece, and you had to learn part of it or all of it or whatever. Like if this was on your docket, right? This looks very formidable to me. The idea is no matter how hard it is, there is a tempo that exists that you can play this. Okay, it could be like one note a minute, but you could do this piece if you took it literally one note a minute, you could make it through. And that's the idea behind puppy mode. So we're going so slow that we cannot fail. So maybe you're going to work on like just a little snippet, right? We'll break it down into a tiny bit. Maybe you're going to work on just literally getting from one note to the next note, right? So the idea is go slow, put it in tiny pieces, right? And this will allow you to have success no matter how hard that music is. And I can't stress the importance of puppy dog mode enough. So here's a few things to remember about it. Remember, you're trying to master a task, not be better than other people. You are trying to grow. Everything is a matter of, I can't play it yet. I'm on my way, but I can't play it yet. And this is great for the kind of getting things correct, like when you really just want to get the music right. Um, you want to go slower than you even imagine. I can't tell you how many times I start something and I tell myself I'm going to be in puppy dog mode, and then I make a mistake and I'm like, wow, I guess I wasn't as slow as I needed to be, right? So if you have a mistake when you're doing puppy dog mindset, you're going to stop and go back again and go slower. This is not the time to put on a metronome. We're going at the speed of our brain, right? So this is about teaching yourself to think the right thing at the right time in order to do the musical task. So we want to be very exacting about our standards. So what counts as a mistake? Literally anything, a squeak, a hesitation, a wrong note. So we want to be very, honest, however painful that may be. Be honest with yourself about whether something really was a mistake, and avoid this idea. And we do this all the time when we play. We're playing through something and we're like, oh, I normally don't mess up there, so that mistake doesn't count. That's not for puppy dog mode. Puppy dog mode is every mistake counts and you go back and you hold yourself accountable for it so that you learn it correctly, right? And that is going to contrast with bulldog mode. Same piece. Bulldog mode is the idea you're going to keep going no matter what. Nothing is stopping you. And so bulldog mode can also be applied to like a small section or a tiny little snippet, whatever you need it to be, or a whole piece. So you were going to remember our goals. We're going to remember our mindset. And here is where your metronome is a huge help. It's going to keep you on track, right? It's going to keep you on track with the music. And this is where you do ignore those tiny mistakes. A little squeak here, wrong note there, a hesitation. It's as if you were performing this piece and you can't stop. You've got to keep going, right? So the priority is the flow of the music from point A to point B, whatever that is. And point A to point B might be, again, the whole piece. It might be one measure. It's whatever you decide it needs to be. So it is great for retrieving, like for run-throughs, like practicing a performing, like, oh, I'm going to have to play this piece in front of somebody or at my lesson or whatever. So this is a great time to practice that. That idea is bulldog mode. And again, we want to assess, just like puppy dog mode. If bulldog mode is not working for you, like you've had so many mistakes on that run through, then we got to go back to puppy dog mode, right? We got to toggle back to that other mode. So a few notes about these strategies. For puppy dog mode, this is great for just learning things the right way and then also getting them, like playing around with them, getting them deep in your memory. Bulldog mode is great for like getting them in your memory, but then also like retrieving it, like doing your run-throughs of your performance. And both of these modes are great for like being in flow, being in your challenge state. Like both of these work in both areas. But the note I really want to make is to use these strategies intentionally. Be very mindful of which one you're trying to do and try not to live in the in-between space, which is where a lot of us live, which is kind of like, I'm going to try to make it through this little section and maybe, oh, I had a mess up. Oh, I'm going to keep going. Oh, maybe I'll stop and work. Maybe I'll keep going. And we kind of go back and forth between these two mindsets. And I'm just going to suggest that we pick a mindset and stick with it for a little bit. So at trying to put all of these concepts together, we have our little stacks of music that are in the different zones. We have our fun stuff, we have our foundation, we have things that are hard, we have things that are the perfect amount of challenge, and we've got our mindset and our goals, and we've got our strategies for how to practice and how to get good at things. And we're going to apply all of those things to all of that music. So it's kind of, these are our things we can apply to the music that we have. So one of the last important things I want to tell you about is the idea that when we have a blueprint for practicing, like we should be keeping records for ourselves, right? Take some data just for you, just for your own progress, right? It's so easy now with phones and all the technologies that we have, right? You can make a recording of yourself every time you get out your clarinet. You can hit voice memo if you want. You can keep track of the number of minutes you spend on your clarinet, which would be fun. If you're a checklist person, you can make little to-do lists for yourself, and you can see this kind of written proof that you've spent time and you're working and how things are getting better. Sometimes it's just a matter of keeping a date on a music, like I started at this date, I was done with my etude on this date, that kind of thing. But I really want to stress the idea that you share your successes and your flops with people. Like with social media, because we are all here to support each other, and connection is positive. And if it's like, oh gosh, I finally made it through Rose Etude number 1, that's huge. Or gosh, I can't tongue on Rose Etude number 2 yet, so we all can identify with things like that together. So putting it all together, we've got our mindset, we've got our 4 essential spaces on our blueprint of practicing. We've got the idea of what kind of proportions we want to practice in. We've got strategies we can use. We've got, hopefully, you're going to be keeping a written record. I'm encouraging you to share your successes and your flops with people, because we all care about those things. And I think when you put all of that together, that will help you level up and love practicing. Um, and that is going to conclude our talk for today. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. We're done a little bit early, so I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to put a PDF in the chat. So let me stop my share. One moment. Okay. All right. Let me find the chat and put where is the chat? There it is. Okay, let me see if I can put something in the chat for us. While I'm trying to drag this in here, anybody have any questions or comments? There, it should be coming in the chat now. Questions or comments or things that you thought of about yourself that you want to talk about? We've got like 2 minutes, I think, before we're going to get put back in the main room. Um, yeah, had anybody heard of like puppy dog mode and bulldog mode before? Are those things that resonate with you?
No.
Not yet. Yeah. Well, good.
So Candace and Tina have some comments for you there in the messages.
Comments. Okay, let me see here. Um, okay, I see one that's kind of like, I see that we should end our sessions on something we consider playing fun. Oh, so is this a question about how we end our set practice sessions? Is that what you're referring to? I think you're muted. I think you might still be muted.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
So Candace said, I had heard we should end our practice
Uh-huh.
sessions on something we consider hard that we have been able to play. That playing for fun at the end erases what we have worked on.
Mhm. Right. So you can put your fun stuff wherever you want. I like it at the end. It's kind of like a little reward system. I tend to not like to leave my practice session with something where I feel like I'm not quite getting it yet, right? That's I think it's a personal preference. And I think that how your reward system works. And for some people, they like to save the goodies for the dessert for the end. And some people like to start out with the dessert. And so there are no wrong answers with that.
And then Tina said, I have heard the opposite. My teacher tells me to end with something I feel good about, so I end on a high note and have a positive association with
Uh-huh.
practice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. And I think your teachers know you very well. And so maybe they give you each specific suggestions for specific reasons. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here.